All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Left Unattended, the podcast where we pull back the curtain on what it really means to be neurodivergent in the workplace. I'm your host, Ron Sosa, and together we'll explore the stories that often go untold, like the experiences, the challenges, and the wins that shape how we show up at work, whether the systems around us are ready for us or not. So today I'm excited and honestly a little bit honored to welcome my very first guest on the show, Suzanne Thomas. Woo-hoo! Suzanne is a credentialed veterinary technician, leadership mentor, and senior manager of operations. She's founded the Leading Veterinary Teams, where she helps veterinary professionals build strong, sustainable teams through real-world leadership, technician utilization, and culture change. Suzanne is passionate about making veterinary medicine more inclusive, supportive, and human. And I have to say, I love the very last word on your bio, that more human part, because I always say, if we could just see a human being as a human being. So I just have to tell you, I love your bio.
Yeah, I think that's so much part of what's missing, right? I think we get so stuck in all of the things that we have to do that we forget that we're all just people trying to do it.
That's right. If we could just see a person as a person on the other side of whatever table we're sitting at, the world would just be such a better place. So.
Yeah, I mean, we get stuck in it, right? Because we're consumed in computers and AI and phones and all of the things. And we have lost so much of the human interaction. I've actually been recently digging into some of that just as a parent and as a leader. How do we interact with the people that we work with? Whether I want to err on the side of caution with using generational words, but how do we interact with people in general, whether it be the new generation or otherwise, with how we are, with the way that the world is moving in less actual human interaction, right? We actually have to equip people and train people and how to interact with people because we don't interact anymore.
It's so true. It's so true.
Yeah.
I am curious though, with interaction, and I want to bring it back a little bit to the premise of the show, which is about our neurodivergence. And I know you and I have had many a conversation about that, but would you walk me through how has your communication human to human impacted by your neurodivergence, whether for good or for bad or indifferent?
Well, what's interesting is that I didn't really know what neurodivergence meant personally or professionally until about 3 years ago when I was diagnosed with ADHD myself. And that opened up a whole new world of this word, neurodiversity, for me, and has made me realize, not only from a leader perspective, but also just from a personal perspective of what this world and how we interact with people, and how different individuals have different, what am I trying to say? The different interactions we each have, and the ways our minds work are just different. And it's just opened up a whole new world, all new language. And I'm still learning what it all means. And so to bring it back to your question, it's all related, right? How has it been? How has it been for me? I thought that I had it all figured out, and then all of a sudden, somebody put a name to what was happening up here, and I was like, "Oh, I don't have it all figured out." And now all of a sudden, I'm realizing that the people that I'm interacting with, trying not to diagnose them myself, but I'm like, maybe there's something going on with them. Maybe there isn't, but maybe there is. So maybe I should be more mindful of that, and just more mindful of how I interact with them, and more thoughtful. And it's almost made it more complicated, right? I always just spoke and did and thought and whatever. And now I'm really thinking through every interaction because I want to make sure that it lands and I'm saying the right thing and I'm interacting the right way. And then there's also this layer of it's not always going to be right. And it's not always going to land and it's not always going to, and there's got to be that human element of leadership that I'm going to mess up. And then I have to be able to say, hey, I messed up and I'm sorry. And I'm going to try again because I don't know how your brain works compared to my brain and all of that. It's all very complicated. And I don't know if I answered your question at all, but it's all very complicated and interrelated and we're all learning. And I think if anything I just said made any sense at all, that's just my brain.
Well,
in one big sentence.
You have our people right here. So it totally makes sense to me. One of the things, there's two things that really stood out in the comments that you said. And the first was, of course, it just went on my head. But one of the first things was kind of that self-discovery is we think we have it all together, right? Like we think we have all the things. And then once we put the face to the name, it's like, oh, wow, I didn't realize the struggles that I had were actual struggles, or like I just thought it was something everybody goes through. And so something I see in my clients when I do coaching is like there's this loss or an erosion of our identity where we put the mask on, we camouflage, we code switch, whatever the terminology you want to put by it, is we tend to actually lose who we are to save face or find belonging in those around us. So,
and I'm still learning like I said, I was diagnosed with ADHD 3 years ago, and I'm still learning what I've masked and what I've not masked. I'm still trying to figure out on a daily basis what is really, like I'm still digging in, what is really Suzanne and what is this facade that I'm putting on for whoever is around me, whether it be at home or in real life. Like, I'm like, wait, is that really how I feel about it? Like, is that really what I think? Is that really what I'm doing? Do I really enjoy doing what I'm doing? Like, there's a lot of that. And it's constant and it's exhausting, but it's important work to do to figure out, I've 30 plus years of living like that, pre-diagnosis. And I also am of the belief that like that diagnosis doesn't define who I am either. And so there's that layer, right?
Yeah, I'm curious, like, what are some of the layers that you've peeled back? Like, that's some of the untold stories that I want to share is like, as we peel back, like, what are some of the things that you felt like you either needed to hide about yourself, whether it be before or now or still or whatnot? Like, what are some of those pieces that you had to peel back that people didn't know who you really were in the beginning?
I don't know. It's a hard question. I don't know that I've ever been somebody to necessarily actively hide anything. I've always been someone who, almost to a fault, I've always been somebody who's like worn my heart on my sleeve, been almost too honest about things. Growing up, I never really had a filter. I would just say what I would just say what I thought. I think there's like a layer of emotional intelligence and growing up that has layered into things as well. Just professionalism, learning. I read a ton. Things that I've read that, for example, and I might be going off on a tangent, which happens a lot, but one thing that I have tried to do that I've learned in books is that if you want to get something done, because I'm a huge procrastinator, if you want to get something done, do the hardest thing in the morning, right? Like the whole eat the frog thing. That does not work for me. Does not work for me whatsoever. I cannot do the hardest thing in the morning because when I do the hardest thing in the morning, or I try to, the rest of the day is completely done because I have expended every little piece of energy that I have working up to that like all of that. I can't do that. I have to like work into it and then get it done and then do it. Like it's just the way that I work and that I function. And I've learned that works for me. And my best work is done in the last second before it is due. I absolutely need deadlines. And I've learned in work and in life, whether they are self-imposed deadlines or not, that even if they are not like real deadlines, do not tell me that. Like, I need to know. I need to know that there is a deadline. It will be done by that like 30 seconds before that deadline. I will hit enter and it will be done. It'll be wonderful. But I don't give me a month to do it because it won't get done until the last day. Like and it's just how my, I don't know. It's just how I've always been. And I've learned most recently that is very much part of my ADHD, the way that my brain works. And to me, that's always just been how I've been. And that's just like, that's not how everybody does it. I didn't know like that's just procrastination. That's, why does Suzanne always do that? And that's how I was all throughout school. I've always been a straight A student. People are like, how do you have ADHD? And you were such a good student. I don't know. It was important to me. So I did it. I
was scared of my parents beating the crap out of me.
I mean, I've put so much, and honestly, I don't even know where the education comes from. Like, my mom graduated high school. She never went to school. My dad is a PhD, so he's a very educated, but that we don't have a very strong relationship. So that doesn't, to me, make it feel like that came from him. Education's always been really, really important to me. So it's always been something that I've driven towards. But again, at the last minute. So it's always been something that I've done in everything that I do well, but always at the last minute. And again, it's something that is, I do my best work when I'm unprepared. I don't know why, but it's something, it's something that I've learned is very much a part of the neurodivergent brain of mine. But kind of bringing it back to, I guess, sort of how your question had started. That's, I think, one of the only things that has really been an interesting realization for me of that's not what everybody does. And that's not a quote unquote normal thing. And these like little tips and tricks that you hear of CEOs and these very successful people that they tell you to do the hard thing, or they do this, or they do. I'm like, none of that works for me. I can't do that. I have to I can't fall in line with whatever these other people do. I have to do what works for my brain, and I've had to figure out what works for me. And I've had to stop thinking like I have to fit into their box because their box doesn't fit for me. So I've had to be okay with whatever box fits for me.
Yeah, I love that. I used to be an Uncharted member back, I think I started in like 2017. And I remember Andy Rourke going and talking about eating the frog. But then he also, in the next slide, which I absolutely loved, and I have never forgotten it, and I didn't know this was at the time neurodivergent thing. He was like, or you can eat the candy. And eating the candy is the low-hanging fruit and the gaining the momentum so that you can eat the frog towards the end of the day, or when you have enough energy to eat the frog. I absolutely love that idea because it's like, you're right. Like, there are days, and most days, I cannot eat the frog unless that's all I do for the day. And if that takes an hour, or if that's eating the frog is the phone call I don't want to make, that's all you're getting out of me for the entire day. Like, and maybe even the next day, because I have a deficit of spoons.
Right. What's interesting,
I love that you said that.
What's interesting is it depends on what it is for me. And I don't know if you're like this too, but for me, I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go to the gym. It is a non-negotiable. And a lot of people are like, how are you ADHD? How do you have these things? And you do that. And I just have set up systems that are, it's not motivation. It is 100% a system that I have set up. I have to do certain things, right? I have to remove barriers in order for me to do those things. The moment that gets messed up is the moment that doesn't happen, like, or I'll talk myself out of it or whatever that is. And same goes for work and other things. But for me, the gym is a very, because I've been doing it for so long, it's a very easy one to share. So I wake up and everything is on the way out the door, right? And it's set up very systematically to get me out the door. So the clothes are there, the toothbrush, like literally everything, the water, the supplements, the coffee, all the things, to the keys, to the door, to the car. And then all of a sudden I'm at the gym and I'm like, I don't even know what just happened, but I'm here, so I might as well work out. But it's like my body just goes. And then all of a sudden, it's halfway through the day and I've already done the workout and I'm, past that. But that to some people is that eat the frog. And to me, it's just my body's already past that. And there's no thought. It's just a system that I've put into place. It doesn't take actual effort versus other things that are like really effortful that there's no way.
Yeah. I think one of the things I heard you say was like the gym is really important to you. And so our ADHD brains are built on importance and urgency. And so, excuse me, it's easy to go and like, I'm going to do the gym and I'm going to do it every day. And I think what I'm experiencing from you is I can do the gym every day, but I might forget my phone or I might forget my water or I might forget whatever the 10 million steps are to get out the door, but I'm going to hit the gym. And the system you created is all of the things that you don't forget. Because I'll tell you, I would have gone out to the car and I don't have my car keys. I would go back in. And it's like, I didn't grab my towel halfway there and then I'm driving back.
The moment you have to go back in, it stops. Then you have to remove every single, and whether it's a gym or anything else, right? It doesn't matter what the end goal is. You have to remove every single barrier to get to the end goal. So whatever that end goal, that's what I've learned. Like, and even if it's like writing the paper or writing, like I wrote a book, right? How did I write a book as somebody with neurodivergence? I wrote a book because I removed every barrier to get to that book. If I tell you the real story of how that book came about, you'd be like, that tracks. But I mean, yeah. So, but like you have to remove every single barrier because the moment you stop and rewind is the moment you don't go. Right. Is the moment you talk yourself out, or like if I get to the car and I'm like, forgot something. And if I just keep going, inertia, like I joke and I say like, but it's real, right? Inertia, I keep going. The moment I'm up and I'm going. But if I just stay and stop, then I'm stopped.
I feel that. I think me and my husband have been together almost 20 years. And I think it's taken him the first 10, maybe 12 to realize like, hey, I'm about to sit down from coming home from work. And if I sit down and there's nothing going to happen. So what do you need me to do? And if you tell me nothing is getting done. But if you get me in like that moment before I sit down, I will help you cook. I will help clean the dishes. I will do whatever. But the moment I sit down, it is done.
Oh yeah.
Like that is the barrier. If I sit down in front of that in front of that TV on the couch, I'm gone until it's bedtime. The only time I get my butt up is if I have to pee or I have to sleep.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. We used to, that's funny you say that. We used to live, right now we live on the third floor, but one floor like is ours. We used to live in a house that had 2 floors. And I can't tell you how many times we would sleep on the main floor. We would just all like pile in one bed because you have to walk up the stairs to get to the bedroom.
Oh, no.
Rude, like nobody wants to do that. And we go to the gym, like we're not lazy people by any means, but it's just like the process of nobody wants to do that.
Yeah, I see it in my clients too. Like I have clients that, we both work for veterinary companies. And so my clients will be like, hey, I just can't get to work on time. Like I'm getting written up, I'm getting in trouble. And it's like, when we get down to the root issue, it's because the work has become less important for them, whether it be because, they don't agree with the value system that's going on. There's some sort of conflict at work, but they no longer view work as important. And so like, if we can set ourselves up for this is really important to me and realize the importance of the thing that you're trying to accomplish, I really feel like we can accomplish anything.
Yeah, it's what is, and really getting down to the why, right? Simon Sinek talks about finding your why, but it's finding the why of the company that you work for. It's finding the why and what you're doing. It's finding the why of what drives you. It's really getting like asking all of those questions. It's why do I want to do this today? Why do I want to be in vet med? Why do I want to be in finance? Why do I want why? Just keep asking the 5 whys, right? But you can keep asking more than 5. Just keep asking the why until you get to that like real deep understanding of what drives you. And I like, that's real deep work. But at the end of the day, what is the real reason, right? I was recently, we're going off on another tangent. I was recently asked if money was my motivator. And I was like, to the person who asked me this, I was like, you're not going to like the answer to this. But no, it's not. And they were very inquisitive and were like, really? Like, what? It's not. This was a finance person, so they were surprised. But I was like, no, it's not. Like, obviously I need money to survive. We all do. You know, I live in America. I also live in like one of the most expensive areas in America, in the Northeast, like the New York, New Jersey area. And so, yeah, sure, I need money. I have 7-year-old twins. It's not cheap to live here. However, what gets me up in the morning, what gets me to the gym is not dollars. I mean, I have to pay dollars to get to the gym, but that's not a story. But what really drives me is, and even in my like learning about my neurodivergence and how I interact with people and all of that, I said when I started, right, like this, it's all interconnected. What really drives me is how I can impact more people. And I work in vet med for a reason, how I can impact more people who impact more people who help pets, right?
Yeah.
The pets, the animals that can't speak, the animals who can't help themselves. How do I help more of them? When I was a technician, I was an oncology technician. And most people, when I tell them that, they're like, oh my God, that must have been so sad. It really wasn't. For the majority of the time. I mean, sure, you know that your patients are terminally ill, so there's a level of sadness that is involved in that, but there's this level of understanding that what we were doing was making sure that these pets lived longer and lived well while they were being treated. And there was like deep satisfaction in that. And then, you know, for me, there's only so much I could do there. And so then I went into leadership, and then I was able to impact the people that were helping the pets. And then there's only so much that I can do in one hospital. There's only so many people that I can impact there. So then I dream bigger, right? So then my why gets larger. And truly,
I feel like you're telling me my own story.
But truly, like that's dream bigger, right? And so now my why is truly to be able to impact as many people as I possibly can, to tell the story that we can truly live in this world where we can treat people well and treat people in a way that make them feel like they belong in vet med, because I do believe I am wearing a Blend Vet shirt sort of on purpose, but Blend Vet talks about everyone deserves to belong in vet med. And I know that there's this layer of, maybe some people assume that just means, Black and brown people, but that also means neurodivergent people. That also means really everyone, right? Everyone deserves to belong in vet med. And while my mission and my passion is in veterinary medicine, I think we all really deserve to belong everywhere. If we want to get like real, hokey, wokey,
get me
whatever.
The warm and fuzzies.
But like really, truly, like there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to just be ourselves and just belong. And
I'll never forget, I think being a 4-year-old kid and having my first dog. And like, I think that was the moment that I can honestly look back in my life and remember, like, I felt like I belonged with that dog, right?
They don't judge
That
us.
unconditional love and that human animal bond, that connection was just so strong.
Yeah.
And I truly believe it's what I have a belief that there's a higher number of neurodivergence in veterinary medicine. I don't have any stats to prove it.
Yeah.
However, like I run into our vet med people all the time, and we talk about it, and so maybe it's confirmation bias for me, but I truly believe that, and I think there's something to do that with the human animal bond. Like I want to protect that human animal bond. I want everybody to experience that level of belonging that I had with that dog, and that I still have with my own current dog. So
So neurodivergent people, and I don't have it in front of me, but neurodivergent people do tend to be more in tune with animals. There are statistics, and if you want them, I can definitely share them with you because I pulled them I did a neurodivergent webinar. I don't know if that's what you actually call it, but I did a thing for BlendVet, and they asked me to get statistics. They didn't want me to talk about stuff without actual data, which I totally appreciate. So I did pull some data, and there's data that it's not like super clean. It's mostly in the human in human side because that's where you get most of your data. But there is data that shows that people with neurodivergence do tend to have more attachment with animals. I mean, here's a question, right? As a fellow neurodivergent, when you go into a big house party, right? Where are you going?
I'm going right to their pets.
Right to the dog.
Right down on the floor and go right to, yes, 100%.
Right? I will never forget. Last year I went to, I go to Orange Theory as one of the gyms that I go to. And I went to this house that in my mind, it was like, there's no way these people have dogs. And all of a sudden this big, like, sorry guys, but like this way too overweight, massive doodle comes barreling out of the house and came right to me. And it was like, I don't know why he was thinking so much. It was like he knew that I needed him in the moment of all these people. And I like the rest of the night I just spent with their dog. His name was Waffles. Of course it was. And, but like, that's where we go, right? Like we are just attracted to the animals and there's a reason for that. And there's something to that, right? It's that like we're like connected to that like unspoken thing and that belonging that they don't judge us. They don't. And there's no reason why we can't use them as an example. We can learn from them, right? And we can 100%. actually stop judging each other and have a little bit more grace for each other. And when I talk to leaders, that's what I talk about is, instead of sitting there and, that person who's always late, instead of being like, gosh, why is Sarah always late? I know I'm using Sarah, but why is Sarah always late? Maybe asking Sarah if everything's okay. Let's start there, right? Let's check in on Sarah first. And maybe at the end of the day, Sarah's always late because of Sarah being always late. But maybe something's going on and maybe there's something going on that we don't have anything to do with, but maybe there's something that we as leaders can do to help Sarah. Maybe, hey, Sarah, maybe there's something going on, that you don't want to talk to me about, and that's totally fine. But is there anything that I can do to help you in this situation while we're here? Because I do need you to be here at this time. And if it doesn't work for you at this time, is there a time that does work for you that we can agree on? Because I need you here at this time. If you can't get here at this time because of X, Y, Z, like, is there something that we can do to meet in the middle, right?
Yeah, I think it's so important to not frame it as a personality trait. Well, Sarah's just a late person, right? And then it becomes Sarah's a toxic person, and Sarah's at this person, Sarah's a lazy person, Sarah is late. Like this is a contextual problem. This is not a personality problem.
Maybe Sarah has to drop her kids off. Maybe Sarah's got a elderly parent. Maybe Sarah has, I don't know.
100%.
Maybe it has nothing to do with neurodiversity. Maybe it has something to do with a circumstance at home. Maybe it has to do with something. Maybe something is causing her to be really tired at nighttime or not sleep at nighttime, which is making them not be able to sleep, which is making them get up really late, which is like whatever it is. Like who knows? But who are we to make that determination based on them being late? Right? It's just, we're like programmed to just be in this negative headspace for people that are creating some thing for us versus us stopping for a second and asking more questions. I really, really push leaders to just be curious instead of judgmental, right?
I think that's the antidote for all of it.
Like not to be all, Ted Lasso on us, but truly,
yes.
Right? Like, just
I think
be
that's
more
the
curious.
antidote. curiosity is the antidote. I'm actually doing some work right now, and I'll just drop the bomb here. I'm working on the 6 biased toxicity cycle that leaders go through when they name someone toxic. And it's actually their own toxic bias that they spiral through that puts a label on someone else's toxic. And I hate that. And I really want to dispel the myth of the toxic employee. I truly don't believe anybody comes to work saying, I am going to be toxic today. I am to spread hate. I am going to spread negativity throughout this entire team. I don't think that person ever exists. And maybe there's 1 in a billion people that have that intention, but I truly don't believe they exist.
It's that idea of assume positive intent. And I think that it's become a little bit overused to the point where now people are like, assume positive intent. And we're not really understanding what that means anymore because we've heard it. So we're like, yeah. But truly, you're right? Like whether it's the employee, it's the boss, it's the client, whoever it is, I truly agree with you. I don't believe that anybody walks into any space, anywhere at any time thinking, I'm going to make your life harder today. I think everybody is thinking about themselves and they're thinking about whatever it is that they're going. I'm sorry, Ron. I know that I was going to be doing this today, but I did not wake up thinking about you today. Right? I didn't wake up thinking about anybody today other than, what can I post on social media about leadership for I wasn't, right? Like I'm thinking about what can I do for whatever my purpose is. I'm not thinking about I thought about Starbucks this morning, but I wasn't thinking about the people that work in Starbucks. I wasn't like, how can I make that woman at Starbucks life better, harder, anything? I wasn't thinking about them. So if I'm not thinking about them, why do I think other people are thinking about me?
Well, I think of it this way. Like, let's say I lashed out and I raised my voice at a coworker. And then what I would turn around and go like, oh, I'm sorry. I was really stressed today. I had a bad day. My car wouldn't start. All the things circumstantially that happened against you that you quote unquote made you more irritable, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of it being a personality trait that I'm argumentative or I am somebody who likes to come to work and be quote unquote toxic. If we start to create the context around our team, then they are not a toxic person. They have circumstances potentially beyond their control that makes them appear to be quote unquote toxic. And that's what I want to dispel. So versus
immediately assuming somebody is narcissistic, assuming somebody is like that word just keeps coming to mind because it just keeps coming up at work. Like people are just like, oh, she's a narcissist. Oh, she's this. Oh, she's that. Like, why? Because she's having a bad day? Why? Like,
because it's an easy go-to word, and people don't have to put in the work and the effort to figure out what is going on. And that's
there might be patterns, right? There might be patterns that somebody is like consistently doing things, and maybe they are somebody who gaslights constantly. Maybe they are somebody who does certain things a lot, but I try to, the next thing that I do when people do say those things to me is I challenge them. Have you had that conversation? Have you talked to them? What have you done to change the narrative instead of just assuming XYZ, instead of just assuming this person is this way, instead of just assuming this person is this personality trait? Have you asked them if they're okay? Have you checked in on them? Have you right? And so that is something that, to be honest with you, has really shifted for me in the last few years because the leader that I was pre-ADHD diagnosis was probably more of the, sure, I want to know more about people, but it's easier to just blame their personality trait and move on than to dig in. And ever since learning about my own brain being different, it's kind of put a mirror on myself to realize, wait, if somebody would have asked me these questions, if somebody would have treated me this way, maybe I would have maybe I would, you know what I mean? So it's started to just make me question things. And so if you look at some of the content that I put out, a lot of what I write is that like the premise to my leadership content, right, is that I want to help leaders become the leader they wish they had. And that's because I want to become the leader that I wish that I had before my
say that all the time.
Before my ADHD diagnosis. Because if somebody would have stopped and asked me, "Are you okay? Is everything okay?" Instead of just assuming that I was, being, argumentative or being, I wasn't being argumentative. I just needed somebody to hear me because I saw all of these things that just that didn't make sense and nobody would hear me. I've learned how to be able to be heard in ways that people can hear now. Like I've learned way more productive ways to be heard. But back then I was like yelling at the rooftops, like, "Hello, somebody hear me." And that was just, argumentative or troublesome, or the loud one in the room that would just get pushed back. "Oh, there's Suzanne talking again. She's always got something to say, And instead, I wish somebody would have taken the time to just like ask me, And so now I'm challenging people to ask people and be more curious and have the conversations, because that's how we lead people. That's how we show them what's important. And also that's leadership, right? And it's not management, that's leadership. And I've had managers.
100% agree.
I've had managers my whole career, and I'm really starting to realize, or I've really started to realize that if I would have had people to really lean in to the hard stuff instead of hide away from the hard stuff, maybe some of the harder situations that I've experienced in vet med and otherwise wouldn't have been so hard. Whether it be because of my neurodivergence or just because I'm a human.
Mm-hmm. So as we kind of bring this episode to an end, I'm curious, like, what is one thing, if you can pick one thing, that you wish the world knew about your brand of neurodivergence, what would it be?
So one thing that I wish the world knew about my brand of neurodivergence. Not sure that this is going to come out the way that I want it to, but that's okay. I'm not being difficult. I'm not being difficult.
I feel that right in my chest.
I think I almost cried.
I felt that. As soon as you said it, I was like, not only do I relate, but I feel what you're feeling right now, because I've been in those shoes where you get labeled difficult, and it's absolutely awful. I've shared with you a story recently about myself and a clinic I worked at, how I was labeled difficult. And it's just like, we're just trying to get down to root cause. What is the why? Give us the information, and leaders should be able to give that to us. And I don't think that's such a hard thing to ask for. So Suzanne, for those listening out here who want to learn more about you or follow you, or like, where can they find you?
Everywhere. I am on Instagram at the real Suzanne, Suzanne Thomas. Long story about why it's the real Suzanne Thomas, but I was hacked. The real Suzanne Thomas. Leading Veterinary Teams is also on Instagram. That's more for the podcast though. lvt.vet is my website. I'm also on LinkedIn. And TikTok, but it's literally the Instagram content, so you don't have to watch.
Pick your poison.
Yeah, it's the same stuff. And Facebook, but that's mostly for my mom. So what else? Mostly Instagram.
I think we could talk forever. As
easily.
You know, we talked at AVMA for God knows how many hours, but I always enjoy talking with you. And as we draw to a close, I just want to say I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you being my first guest on my first episode of my podcast. So thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you so much for listening to the very first episode of Left Unattended. A huge thank you to my guest, Suzanne Thomas, for sharing your story so honestly and reminding us that neurodivergence isn't about being difficult. It's about being human. And of course, thank you, Dustin Bays, for editing and making sure this episode sounds as good as it feels. If today's conversation resonated with you, let's keep the connection going. Join my newsletter for weekly insights on neuroinclusive leadership at sin-apt.me/newsletter. Learn more about coaching with me at coaching.sin-apt.me. And finally, if you enjoyed this episode, please follow the podcast and leave a review. It helps more people find these conversations and reminds the world that belonging isn't a luxury, it's a leadership strategy. I'm your host, Ron Sosa, and this has been Left Unattended. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other.